There's something that I grew up with. My mom really just kind of made it a point to make sure that I understood it. And I really didn't get it for a number of years, but she taught me as a child, she says, you know, nobody cares who's pulling the cart till the horse dies. So what I'd like to do is make sure everyone really does have a good understanding of me, Nick Mangeris, of the company lifespan, its mission, what its purpose is, why we're here, what we have as goals, and the direction that we're going to take. So let me give you a few little insights as to who I am. I was born in the first half of the last century. I was actually born before World War II got started. My dad was in World War II. He was gone an awful lot, and so it was my mom that raised me, and then subsequently had a pair of twin brothers and then another brother later on in life. So there was 4 of us boys, and my mom was very, very instrumental in raising us. My mom came from a farm up in Idaho and was kind of the middle child, the one that everybody seemed to overlook. But she was very, very determined, and she carried that on throughout her entire life, and in particular when she got married. Well, give you a little bit of insight behind my mom, and then we'll get into me. My mom's name was Beth, and Beth was just a tiny little thing, barely a little bit over 5 feet tall, sopping wet, maybe 100 pounds. At 14, Mom had a very unfortunate circumstance take place, and she ended up pregnant, and her parents sent her away to a relative to have the baby. She came back, and unfortunately after that, and they had given the baby away, by the way, so somewhere I have a half-brother someplace. I don't know what the deal is. Mom never really wanted to talk about it. She says, it's behind us, we can't change it, leave it there. So what happened was Mom grew up, and as she was growing up, she hit 15, 16, she contracted polio. Went to the doctors. Doctors told her absolutely she was going to lose her mobility. They put her in a wheelchair, couldn't do normal chores around the ranch. And of course, when you can't do those chores, you're not of much help. And you're really kind of pushed aside for everything. Well, she had older brothers and sisters, and then also younger brothers and sisters. Got along with all of them very, very well, but there were some real challenges with her maturing and actually growing. Well, what happened was one day her dad said, you know what, I think that we can probably do something about this so that you can at least walk, you can get around, and you can begin to function. Well, the idea behind it was that she was going to begin to function so that she could participate and do part of the chores on the ranch. Very, very large ranch in Idaho. And as a result, they made supports for her legs because she had lost complete control of her legs. Going back and forth to the doctor says, well, you know, it seems like she's getting a little bit of muscle development. Why don't you continue what you're doing? And then Mom told her dad, he says, look, I really believe that I can walk, so I'd like to have time to learn to walk. I'd like these special pair of crutches. And Mom ended up learning to walk. Well, not only did she learn to walk, this is the amazing part and the amazing determination that she had, that she passed on to me and my 3 brothers. Mom not only learned to walk, Mom ended up learning to dance. She won dance contests. She got into track by the time that she was 18. And at the same time, she was the youngest woman in the state of Idaho to get a private pilot's license. Now, this is somebody who had gone through a horrific, traumatic time at age 14 and had a baby at a time when you didn't do that. And then later on, contracted polio and had a wheelchair, got out of the wheelchair, learned to dance, learned to run, learned to function normally, ended up getting a private pilot's license, and then she put herself through college. So an extremely determined individual. Well, that gives you a little background of where all of this determination comes from. That's the type of personality that raised me. My mom taught me how to shoot a gun. She taught me how to throw a baseball, how to shoot a bow and arrow, raised us in the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and then the Boy Scouts, was a den mother, was a leader. She did all of those things. I feel I was the most blessed child on earth. She spent time with us. My mom never sent us to church. She took us to church. After Mom and Dad got married, we ended up living in Canton, Ohio. I basically, until my young teenage years, lived in Canton, Ohio. And I grew up in the projects in Canton, Ohio. Literally, the government housing projects. Those things that everybody say, oh, you grew up there, it must have been rough. Well, you know what? When you're growing up, you don't know any different. We didn't have any money. Our neighbors didn't have any money. Nobody had any money. Our next-door neighbors came from Puerto Rico. The ones on the other side came from Italy. The ones on the other side came from Ireland. The ones on the other side came from Alabama. And they were, at that time, they were the black family. And we were all friends, ate at each other's houses, went to the same dances, went to the same school functions, played marbles together, did jump rope, went fishing together, hopped on trains together, did all kinds of things. And that's the way we grew up. During the time of that growing up and actually learning about life and learning about people and understanding what life was all about, I had some good opportunities. My dad's Greek and my mom was not Greek, and how they got together was really a real challenge because the Greeks don't like their children to marry outside of the Greek religion. Well, Mom and Dad got married, and as I say, Dad stayed in the service for a long time, and Mom moved to Ohio. Well, that's where Dad's family was from. We used to take a bus every Sunday, and we'd go to church, and after church, we'd walk over to Yaya's house, which was my dad's mom, my grandmother. We'd go there, and we'd have dinner that evening. Then we'd get on the bus and we'd come back home, back down to the projects. We'd walk about 5 to 6 blocks from the bus stop to home, vice versa, in the dark. Never got accosted. Nobody ever bothered us. We just did our thing, took care of business, and knew most everybody in the project. I'm going to say there was an easy 400 to 500 families in and around the one set of projects where we lived. Well, when I was about 6.5 years old, I used to get on a bus. And I used to go downtown Canton, Ohio, down to the square. My grandfather used to have a shoe shine stand, pretty large shoe shine stand. They had him and 2 of his sons and one of his brothers that came from Greece, and they would shine shoes all day long, 7 days a week. And that's how they made their money. In addition to that, my grandfather had been involved in painting houses. He had done a variety of different things, but he always did something to provide for his family. And I could see that, and they always talked about that. Well, I learned how to shine shoes from my grandfather and then one of my uncles. And my grandfather said, why don't you walk downtown on the square? And he talked to me in Greek because he spoke very poor English. He says, why don't you walk downtown on the square and we'll build you a shoe shine box and you can carry your box and you can shine shoes. It'll be a nickel to do the toes and a dime for the whole shoes. And I started doing that. Well, this was my first introduction to sales, to marketing, to understand leveraging. What occurred was I would get up early on a Saturday morning, about 8 o'clock. I'd catch the bus, get a transfer, and I was just a little over 6 years old. I'd take my shoe shine box on my shoulder with a leather strap, probably an old belt. I'd go downtown and I'd start walking the corners, and I would be shining people's shoes. I would eat downtown at one of the little stands. Then at the end of the day, I'd get on the bus, I'd go back home, and I'd walk a couple blocks, whatever it was, back at home, and give all of the money that I made to my mom. And my mom would then turn around and give me a little bit of that money because we didn't have an awful lot, and that's just what you do. Nobody ever thought anything about it. It was never just my money. This was money that was for the family. Well, after a little bit, I started talking to my Uncle Harry. I said, Uncle Harry, I said, hey, I can't get to all of the corners. There's all of these people. And he helped me devise this plan where I got a friend of mine, Richard Sullivan, and then Arnold Cavelli, and then Tyrone Power. They each got one of the corners. And I told them, helped them build their shoe shine box, and my Uncle Harry helped a couple times. And I told them, I own all 4 corners. They're mine. So I want you on this corner, Richard. I want you on this one, Tyrone. And I want you on this one, Arnold. And they would just stand on the corners, and we would walk around on our corners. And what happened was, instead of me trying to hit all of these corners and shine everybody's shoes, I had these 3 friends of mine, each on a corner, and I told them they were my corners, but you can shine shoes there, and I took a percentage. And so that was my first real introduction to understanding marketing, learning about leveraging, learning about and understanding the value of having more people doing a job and how I could make a little bit of money off of what they were doing. And I felt that I deserved it because I trained them. I taught them how to shine shoes. I helped them build a shoe shine box. We either went to Goodwill or we went someplace, I don't remember. We got the belts for the strap. And we did this for months out of the year till I was about 13, 14 years of age. And it got to the point that people would walk from one corner to another to have one of us that they chose shine their shoes. And we had regular customers, and we made pretty decent money. I had bought a bicycle, and during the week I would deliver papers, and then on other days when I had the time, I would take a push mower and I would go around and I'd mow people's lawns. So I began to understand the value of my time, how I could apply it to my life. I was an average student, didn't get much above a C. I got B's on occasion, but pretty much just an average person, an average student. When I graduated from high school, I would venture to say most of the people in the high school graduating class didn't know who I was. And that gets into a whole additional story. I was pretty much just a wallflower. But what this taught me was an awful lot about commitment. It taught me about service. It taught me about leverage, taught me to understand money. The other thing that I began to learn is that if I didn't feel good, if I was sick, I didn't go downtown, I didn't make any money. Now, after I had brought on board Richard, Tyrone, and Arnold, they went down, and I did make money, even if I wasn't there, because I still got my percentage of whatever amount of shoes that they shine. So I really learned an awful lot. It's where I started to develop some ethics. It's where I started to develop some understanding. So I would be happy to tell people, yeah, I've got some pretty good street smarts. I grew up on the streets in Canton, Ohio, in the projects, learned about different people, learned about taking care of myself, learned about taking care of my family, learned about understanding obligations and responsibilities. If you say you're going to mow somebody's lawn, you be there to mow the lawn. If you were going to do anything at all, it was your word, it was your integrity. And my mom really taught that to us. There were times I didn't feel good and Mrs. Delaney's lawn needed to be mowed, and she told me, she says, go over and mow Mrs. Delaney's lawn. You don't have a choice, son. Get up. I know you're not feeling good. I know you got a cold. Go mow her lawn. And she was always very, very disciplined and organized. And so she would tell us that when it was time to do something, you've got to do it. There isn't a choice in not doing it. And so that's pretty much the way that I was raised. In my mid-teenage years, work was pretty bad in Canton, Ohio, and so we moved to Southern California. Dad was a very, very good tool and die maker after he got out of the service, and so there was job shopping in Southern California. Always was working. Dad provided an outstanding work ethic and a very, very good leadership from the responsibility of him being the father and the breadwinner. And back in those days, in the 50s, that's exactly what it was all about. And at that time, we lived in apartments. And this is something interesting. Today, the young couple gets married, early 20s, maybe up to 25, and their first goal is immediately to get a house. My mom and dad didn't get a house until they were 38 years of age. They lived in apartments. This was at a time when interest rate was 2%. Dad was a vet, and so the interest rate was only 1% to buying a house, but you couldn't buy a house unless you had 20% down. That's a lot of money that you had to save. So Dad provided an outstanding image of what a good work ethic was. He would work 6 and 7 days a week. He'd work 12 and 14 hours a day. And this was at a time when he made $1.15 an hour, and they didn't pay overtime. But by the same token, gasoline was 9 cents a gallon. A loaf of bread was 4 and 5 cents. So it was all relative. I never got into this stuff. Things were too expensive. When people would tell me something's too expensive, you know what that told me? That told me I didn't make enough. That didn't tell me that somebody was trying to gouge me. I didn't look at life that way. When Corvettes came out in 1957 and I wanted to get a Corvette, the Corvette wasn't too expensive. I just needed to make more money. It was that simple to me. So if I had to work extra, whatever I had to do, if I had to take an extra job on, that was a choice that I was going to make. But I never sat around and I didn't complain about the cost of things. What I did was create an avenue so that I could get the extra income or the extra days off or whatever it was so that I could accomplish the goal, so that I could get what I was looking for. That's the way that I was raised. It's the way that I think. To me, that's the color life is here in the United States and around the world. If something costs $1,000, it's not too expensive. I just got to do something to make more money so that I can have it if that's what I really want. So we lived in Southern California, and then Dad had some health problems. He contracted TB when he was in the service. We ended up moving to Las Vegas, Nevada. In the late 50s, Dad went into a sanatorium, and the Greek way of life is a little bit different. Again, this was back in the 50s. And at that time, there was an attitude in the family that if the breadwinner, which was the father, couldn't provide enough income, or there was an illness or there was a death or something, the oldest child, typically this oldest son, would quit high school and go to work. Well, Mom and Dad and I sat down. I remember sitting at a kitchen table. It was like, okay, what are we going to do? Dad has to go to a sanatorium. We got to move to Las Vegas. Nick, you got to quit high school and you got to go get a job. And Mom was adamant that she wanted me to go to college. She wanted me to get an education. And she says, I'll go to work. I'll do whatever. Nick can work extra. Nick can do all these kinds of things. Well, what ended up occurring was we moved to Las Vegas, and through Dad's connections all the way back at Canton, Ohio, we were able to acquire the control of 3 different parking lots. Valet parking in Las Vegas in the 50s and into the 60s was controlled by the underworld, the gangsters, the mob. And Dad knew some people all the way back from Canton, Akron, Cleveland, Detroit, and Chicago. And so, as a result, we got the parking lots, the valet parking for the Stardust Hotel, the Dunes Hotel, and the Sands Hotel. There again, we couldn't run all of them, and in particular, Dad was going to have to go into a sanatorium. We ended up getting it set up. I hired some people, and they ended up running 2 of the parking lots. I ran 1, and I rotated throughout the week. I went to school in the morning and part of the afternoon, and then when school was out, I immediately went to the parking lots and took care of one of the parking lots, made sure everything was set up, and I got a percentage off of each of those parking lots. Again, for me, developing this philosophy of, I can only do so much. If I can hire people, if I can get people to do a good quality job, if I can train people to do it, and they can make the money that they're looking for and have an opportunity to make as much as they want. And I will make some of the money because I'm the one who brought them in. I'm the one who got them started. I'm the one who trained them how to park cars, how to back up, where to put the cars. When Jerry Lewis came in, when Frank Sinatra came in, when any of the Rat Pack came in, when Dean Martin, anybody was there, you park their car right here. Here's how you treat them. Here's what you do. I had to teach all of that. And when I taught all of that, I felt very comfortable in receiving a reward for what I taught them and giving them the opportunity to have that employment, to have that job. And they all made very, very good money. Well, as time went on, I ended up graduating from high school. Dad came out of the sanatorium and never had a problem with TB again. Unfortunately, at a very young age, I got married. Got married at 18 years of age. And so having a very strong family and work ethic, I decided, okay, I'm going to try and start college and stay married. It didn't work out, and so I went full-time into employment. And I worked 2 and 3 jobs at one time so that I could provide for my family. We certainly lived in apartments, and my goal was by the time I was 25, I was going to have a home. So times have changed, attitudes have changed. Today, families immediately want to get into a home. They have to have a bedroom for each child. They have to have a telephone for each child. They have to have a car for each child. I was raised in a different era. I was raised when the core, the family unit was the most important, and that we worked for the family unit. That kind of an attitude and that kind of a philosophy, I think, has prepared me for what I ultimately went into, which was network marketing. But that gives you an idea about my youth. In the 60s, I was in a company called Amway. I was in a company called Bestline. Did a little bit of Shackley. Was never very successful at any of them, but I discovered I didn't have very good training, and I didn't really know what I was doing. To give you an example, finally bought a house, was married, raising my family, and a friend of mine, I was working at Nevada Test Site at that time. I was working as an electronic technician, and my boss, George Hill, says, Nick, there's this new company. You can make all of this kind of money. Gave me this whole sales pitch. I went to a meeting, and the name of the company was called Bestline. I ended up taking a second mortgage out on my house for $1,500. That was a huge amount of money. I took that money, bought all of this product, and it was at a time when you bought a position. I am so against buying positions, buying in, having someone spend a ton of money, having them go in debt to go into business. You don't have to do that. Well, at that time, that's the way that I was taught. I bought all of this product, and to this day, I still have some Bestline products left. Well, I didn't do very good in it, ended up moving and went to Indiana, decided I didn't want to raise my family in Las Vegas. We went to Indiana. When I was in Indiana, I became the 13th registered paramedic in the United States and taught paramedical training over at Indiana University, South Bend, and then also at Notre Dame, and then on top of that became the fire chief for Elkhart and stayed there about 7 years. One Sunday I went to church with a friend of mine, and he made a comment. He says, Nick, he says, how long are you going to stay at the fire department? He says, you don't make any money, you work all of this extra time, and in the fire department you work 1 day on, you get 2 days off. So what I did on my days off, again, from the way that I was raised and what I had learned, I started Aladdin Construction Company. And it was rehab, it was alterations, additions, modifying older homes, upgrading, detailing, doing all kinds of things for homes. And what I did was, on my days off, I hired other firefighters. They were all looking for work. They were plumbers, they were electricians, they were carpenters, they were drywallers, painters, and they were all very, very good at it. And so I hired them. Again, I was leveraging my abilities to run the company, to do the bidding, to read the prints, to buy all of the materials, and then to manage the people who were working for me. And they loved it because they had a part-time job. They worked 1 day on and 2 days off. And it really went very, very well. And I was making excellent money. Well, as chance would have it, again, at church one day, an individual came up to me and said, Nick, you ought to get into sales. You're a natural sales guy. You're doing this. And I'm thinking, okay, well, he's going to give me some kind of a pitch on something. Actually, he wanted me to go get an interview for a company called Kaiser Aluminum. And so I went and I interviewed, and I got a very high grade. And when I got that high grade, they said, hey, we'd love to hire you. And I went to work for Kaiser Aluminum. I left the fire department. Everybody thought I was crazy. I had this permanent job. They were going to pay me this great money for 50% retirement. All of these kind of things was going to happen. So what happened was, I went to work for Kaiser, took all of their classes, took classes from Chester Karras, The Art of Negotiating. He's the guy who was a great negotiator for Richard Nixon. Met him and got to know a number of people. Ended up becoming a vice president of sales for Kaiser Aluminum. I was the only vice president of Kaiser Aluminum that did not have a college degree. They have it as a mandate that if you're going to be a vice president, you have to have a college degree, and they made me an offer. They said, you go to school, get your college degree, we'll continue to pay you, and then when you come out, then we want to advance you, and we want to do some more things. Made me a great offer. Well, not long into that, another gentleman, very good friend of mine, introduced me to network marketing again. Only his approach was different. He talked to me specifically about a product. And you'll see as time goes on, and the way that we run Lifespan between Randy Allen and myself, we are extremely product-oriented. The product has to provide a benefit. It has to do something. It's got to be palpable. You have to be able to apply it in your life. And it has to be something that people are going to buy, whether or not it's in network marketing. So this product seemed to have all of those attributes. I went to lunch with him, and typically I've got a high acid system, and so we went to lunch at a Mexican food restaurant in Elkhart, Indiana, and I love hot Mexican food, but it doesn't like me. So I ordered it, and he says, yeah, go ahead and order it. And then he set this tall bottle on the table. And he says, I'm going to have you drink some of this, and it'll soothe your stomach, and you won't have any pain or you won't have any problems after effects. And I said, okay, I'll trust you. So ordered my enchilada, and it was hot, loved it. My stomach started bothering me, and then this bottle was a tall bottle, looked like one of the original Drano bottles, all white with this kind of silk screen label, looking at this thing, and he pours out this kind of a yellow-brown liquid that would kind of glugged out, and he pours me a couple ounces. He says, now drink this. Well, the first thing I did is smell it, and didn't smell bad, but it certainly didn't smell good. And so he says, yeah, just go ahead and drink it. He says, I just trust me on this. I says, okay. And, you know, as I say the word trust, imagine I'm allowing myself to be placed in an uncomfortable position. I'm going to have discomfort from this Mexican food, which I love. And so I intentionally put myself in this position, and I'm testing the integrity of this individual. I drink this product, and I'll be a son of a gun. 5-10 minutes later, I got no burning. My stomach's feeling fine. Didn't get any cramping. There was no gas. There wasn't any problems at all. I say, wow, that's pretty cool. So then he says, well, the bottle is X amount of money. And he says, this is something you need to keep with you at all times. I said, you know what? That sounds pretty good. And he says, and by the way, if you want to tell a couple people about it, I can show you how you can get the bottle for free and you can make it a little bit of extra money. And I said, well, I don't know about that, but I do want some product. Well, in addition to that, I used to do an awful lot of swimming. I enjoyed swimming all the way back when I lived in Santa Monica and would go to the beach. Well, occasionally I get a little bit of athlete's foot. Didn't know what it was from at that time, foot, and I'd put powders and I'd do all different kind of things. And so I went back to Bill, was this gentleman's name, and I told him, I said, hey, this is really great. Matter of fact, I've got a couple people that want to buy some bottles from you. He says, well, look, what I'd like to do is just sign you up, doesn't cost anything, and then they can buy it, and when they buy it, when you buy so much, you can get a commission off of what they buy, and you don't even have to handle the product. Company will send it right to them. They can call in, and they can buy the product. And I says, oh, okay, cool, that's all right. Not ever really thinking about the money. So what happened was I told Bill, I said, Bill, I says, you know, I got this problem with athlete's foot, and I says, I get it between big and middle toe. And so he says, well, look, we've got this aloe vera jelly. I want you to start putting this on it right after you take a shower. And boy, it wasn't 4 or 5 days. The itching was gone. The redness was gone. I don't have any more cracking. 2 or 3 weeks, and it's totally healed. And I'm thinking, wow, this stuff's really pretty good. Well, then I learned about a couple other products. I started telling a few more people. And before long, it was about 6 months, and this is a fact, I was making as much part-time with this company selling aloe vera that I wasn't going door to door for. I was making as much part-time as I was full-time as a vice president of sales for Kaiser Aluminum. And while I was at Kaiser Aluminum, I had 2 Cessna citations at my disposal. I went to all of the trips all across the country. I won every contest that they had. I was kind of their pretty boy. I did a great job. I won the contests that they had. We went to Bermuda, went to Hawaii, went down to Mexico. Did very, very well, and I really enjoyed it, and I was making very, very good money. This was back in 1979. Well, when I started making as much money part-time as I was full-time at Kaiser, I quit because I felt if I went full-time, knowing my business background, knowing my discipline, I could easily make 2 to 3 times as much money. Well, I did that. I quit Kaiser Aluminum. Everybody thought I was crazy. My parents absolutely thought I fell off the cliff. They said, you're going to quit Kaiser, all your benefits, you got a job until you're 65. And I remember looking at my mom and saying, Mom, I don't want a job. I just don't want a job. I want to be able to do something. I want to be able to contribute. And I know I've sold good aluminum. I've done this. I was a paramedic. I said, everything I've done, Mom. And I gave her all of the credit. I've done because of the discipline. I would not be held back by anybody. If I fell, I'll get back up. And I can be their number 1 salesperson. And she looked at me, you know, and I'm about 6 feet tall, looking down at her at about 5 feet, and she says, son, I know you can do anything you want to do. Well, gosh, that just melts you. And boom, I went full-time, traveled a little bit over to Chicago, up into Michigan, down into Indiana, over into Ohio, and built a huge, huge organization. I became the number 1, 2, or 3 distributor for the company for a little over a year. Then in northern Ohio, I had an opportunity to conduct a rally. And I held a rally, and the rally was for my group. This wasn't for anybody else, it was for my group. Now, we ended up having people come from New York, they came from Michigan, they came from Kentucky, they came from the Carolinas, and we held it at the Richfield Holiday Inn just south of Cleveland, Ohio. I invited the company president to come out and speak. He was so impressed. It was the largest group that they had put together for any of the rallies that the company held. And he asked me if I would come into the home office, be director of sales with the potential of moving up. He said I could keep my group, but I couldn't continue to sponsor and build, just maintain it. I said, okay, fine. We cut the deal. Company bought my house. I moved out to Mesa, Arizona. So it was me, it was my 4 children and my wife. We moved to Mesa, Arizona, and I grew through the ranks internally, learning all of the accounting, the financing, all of the back office, learning the IT, growing through IT internally, understanding the shipping, director of procurement, ended up becoming the senior executive vice president of the company. Very successful. Made a lot of money. Well, I had an agreement with the president of the company, and the agreement didn't pan out. I ended up leaving the company. I had a settlement with the company that was a considerable amount. I took that amount and unfortunately had just gone through a divorce, and I moved to Colorado. I wanted to live in Colorado because I enjoy outdoors. I enjoy all of the outdoor sports. Came to Colorado, stayed here a couple of years, ended up getting remarried, and then had a number of people who were in Forever Living ask if I would ever consider starting another company. Then on top of that, I was doing some consulting for some network marketing companies, and one of the companies I was consulting for had a product that they were trying to acquire the rights to, and they just couldn't get it done. I felt the product had a great deal of value. It was an unknown product in the United States, and so I went to the manufacturer of that product over in Geneva, Switzerland. I flew over there with the distributor here in the United States. I cut a deal with the owner and manufacturer. They produce a product called Pycnogenol, and I introduced Pycnogenol to the United States in 1992 and started a company called Care International, K-A-I-R-E. Care International grew to $250 million in sales. We just went ballistic. We went crazy. During that time, I had a great opportunity to begin to give back to all of the people that had helped me, to various organizations that had been in need at various times. A couple of them I'm very proud of. I don't feel that it comes across arrogant. I hope it doesn't, but I'm very proud of a couple of the things that I want to say. We were the largest donors to Feed the Children, which is a national organization here in the United States. We were the largest corporate donors. In addition to that, my wife and I started the handicap riders in Colorado, Wyoming, and New Mexico. We have a granddaughter that has some very serious health problems, and she loves horses. We also had one of the largest horse ranches in the state of Colorado. We had the number 1 and the number 3 Arabian stallion for breeding in the world. We had a big breeding operation, and we donated a lot of horses to the handicap riders. We spent an awful lot of time with them. We got involved in a number of organizations, Meals on Wheels. We set up Meals on Wheels in Berthoud, Longmont, and Loveland, and I still drive for Meals on Wheels 2 days a month. In addition to that, many of you may remember that there was a horrific accident that occurred over in Russia, in Chernobyl, and they had a meltdown of one of their nuclear reactors. My wife and I had requested information to find out how that was going, because there were a lot of deaths, there was going to be an awful lot of mutations, there was going to be a lot of problems coming down the road for the families, and in particular the children, just as innocent as you can imagine, and now they're going to have to grow up in this kind of an environment. We had sent for 3 747 jets to go to Russia. Incredible paperwork to get this done. And we brought 3 plane loads of children back from Chernobyl to the United States to be placed, some temporary, some permanent, while they cleaned things up, while they got an awful lot of things going. And I want to say this very, very clear. We didn't do any of this to impress anybody. These children needed help. And it's always been a passion of mine to provide for the future. One of my favorite movies is Pay It Forward. And as I have made a good deal of money, we have always taken the opportunity to help others that haven't had the same opportunity. That was one. Feed the Children was another. We started the DARE program, the drug program here in Berthoud, Colorado. And it's things that we just got a great deal of personal satisfaction out of. In 1996, I became Entrepreneur of the Year for the Rocky Mountain State. Used to write for several of the local newspapers on nutrition, supplement, financial independence, entrepreneurship. Was on the cover of Success magazine. So I say it with pride, but I don't say it to try and impress anybody, but just to impress upon you. All of this occurred from a kid that came from the projects. And it's no different today. It can happen today. It can happen with each one of you. We all have the same opportunities. And one of the things that I'm excited about is the opportunity that we have with Lifespan. Lifespan is a network marketing company. I'm staying in network marketing and in nutrition because it has, over the past decade, probably 2 decades, provided the best vehicle to take more people to the class of millionaires than any other entrepreneurial opportunity in the world. And it can do it with the least amount of expense. But it will take some effort. It will take some work. It will take planning. It will take putting a team together. It'll take taking a little bit of your time out of each day. If you take an hour, 2 hours out of each day to do it. We have people that are succeeding today in a horrific environment. We haven't had such a financial problem in this country since what they call the Great Depression, since World War II. And one of the last bastions of freedom that we have is the freedom to choose what we want to do, where we want to work, how much time we want to put in, the effort that we want to put in. And we still have that opportunity here in this country. Now, I've been asked a number of times, well, what's the mission of Lifespan? Think of it this way. Our mission is, at least from me, is waking up each day full of energy, just full of life. There are so many people that I know that wake up, they dread the day. They're worried about the day. They have aches. They have pains. They wake up to bills. They wake up to collectors. They wake up to a car that they got to drive to work that maybe the transmission is going to go in gear and maybe it's not. For me, my mission is just to provide an opportunity to operate at the top of your game. And I mean that both mentally and physically. To be able to radiate good health. I tell people, without health, you've got nothing. You absolutely have nothing. Our mission, actually, in writing is to make the rest of your life the best of your life. Fundamentally, that's what Lifespan is all about. And when I relate that to people like Steve Jobs was one of the wealthiest men in the world, in the universe, billions of dollars. And it's been said that he would have given every penny of his personal wealth to live for 30 more days. It wasn't about the money. It was about his health. It was about being alive. It was about being vibrant. And in his last days, he was not vibrant. He was not healthy. And for him to have made that kind of a statement tells you the value of health. There is no price that you can put on health. The company Lifespan. I started Lifespan now a little over 4 years ago. Randy Allen came on as a partner, one of the best moves I've ever made in my life. When I think I've done it all and then I run on to somebody like Randy Allen, I'm telling you, there's so much more that I have to learn. Randy Allen has got integrity in the industry. He has been extremely successful financially, and most people don't know the history behind him. Randy Allen is one of the great motivators behind me in being certain that whatever ingredients, whatever product we bring out, it has to be the top quality. He wants to know that the research is there. He wants to know that the product actually does what we say it will do. If we tell people that it's non-GMO, it better be non-GMO, and we better be able to back it up. If it doesn't have any pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, which it doesn't, we have to be able to back it up. If it's organic, does it meet the Oregon Organic Standard? Is it kosher? Yes. Can we get that documented? Yes, absolutely. It's at the top of the game. It's the best that there is. And people that are taking our product, which Randy was instrumental in putting together, the PhytAlive product, are coming back and telling us all of these things, how it's helping them, how they have more energy, how they're thinking clearer, how they don't have the headaches, how the aches and pains are gone, how they're sleeping better. Something a lot of people don't talk an awful lot about, their personal lives. The intimacy part of their lives has improved dramatically. In addition to that, they're calmer throughout the day. I'm pretty much a type A personality, and when I drink PhytAlive, I just feel amazing. I take between 3 and 4 ounces every day, and I won't be without it the rest of my life. So it's a product that is here for today and a product that is here for tomorrow. Another thing, I have people that ask me, they say, what makes Lifespan different from all the other companies? And I like to tell them, say, hey, it starts with my passion for anyone to have access to and the benefits from a good nutritional supplement. I give at least 4 decades of my past in research, in study, in understanding nutrition to PhytAlive. That's what it's taken. It didn't come overnight. This just wasn't thought up one evening. Randy had a great deal of input. We have medical doctors have had an input into this formula. We've got nearly 4 decades of dedication to developing what I like to call the ultimate nutritional insurance plan. And you know, we hear about Romneycare, Obamacare, all of this. In fact, I don't think anybody else really cares, and it's our responsibility to care for our health and our lives. And PhytAlive is the product that can do that. PhytAlive is the core of what every individual needs each and every day, because we don't get good quality from the food that we eat. I have friends that live on organic farms. They buy PhytAlive. They eat organic foods every day. Some of them are total vegetarians. They buy cases of PhytAlive and use it every day and say they feel better. And they work and live on an organic farm with a commune. And they're getting the best opportunity for some of the best foods that are out there. Our product is the most bioavailable. You know, we used to hear, you are what you eat. No, you're not what you eat. You're what you absorb. And when you're drinking PhytAlive, you're going to have the highest potential, the highest percentage of bioavailability. The body's going to absorb it. It's not a tablet. It's not a capsule. It's not a pill. Doesn't have coatings on it. It's a product that is designed to be absorbed by the body so that you can get the nutrition that you need. Not just nutrition that you want, nutrition that you need. In my opinion, it is a product that every individual on the face of the earth should be drinking every day. Most people are drinking 1 to 2 ounces. I drink 3 to 4 ounces. I know Randy, he'll drink 2 ounces, 3 ounces, 4 ounces. A lot of it depends on what we're doing. I burn a lot of calories. I usually work here at the office and then at home, anywhere from 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week. I'm real close to being 70 years of age. So when we hear that people's headaches are gone, when we hear that their aches and pains are gone, that their joints are more flexible, that they don't have the pains in their joints, when we talk to people who are triathletes and they come back and they tell us that their recovery time in between their events is cut by 50%, their heart rate's returning quicker. That's because of PhytAlive. When we talk to world-class wrestlers, individuals that are actually at the top of their game, and you would think that at 22, 23 years of age, they don't get any healthier. And in between their mats, in between their rounds, their heart rate is coming back to normal in half the time. They're not as tired as they were. They've got the energy. These are some of the things that we're hearing, and this product's not been out for very long. The more people we get this product in their hands, the more results we're going to hear. We've got individuals that are telling us that they go down to the drugstore and they buy a reading glass that's 1.75 to 2. Now they're down to 1.5, and now they're down to 1. And this has been after only 2 to 3 months. It makes that much difference. This company, to me, means everything because it gives me the opportunity to give back. I love to tell people something very, very simple. If I would die today, I would have cheated life, because there hasn't been enough time to give back what I've received here on this earth. And Lifespan and PhytAlive is one of the avenues. It's going to assist me in helping to give back and in helping to pay it forward. We've got a great challenge ahead of us. Everyone who listens to this call has the same opportunity. What we need to do is put our heads down, move forward, keep moving in everything that we do. And with this company, with the products, with the funds that we make, earning the money is the easy part. And the motivation behind that is the people who get the results. And we get such a great feeling when we talk to people. They end up using the product and they come back and they say, where has this product been? I can't live without it. Don't ever let me run out of this product. That's what this is all about. It's not about the money. We will make the money. I do take the money, you bet, but I've told you some of the things that we do with the money. I certainly live a good lifestyle. I don't live in a palatial mansion. I don't have to drive a brand new car. It's all about how we can help other people. The joy, the satisfaction, the blessing that comes from that is what motivates me more than anything else. And the company will certainly make a lot of money, and we will have people in the field that are going to make a lot of money, and you will be surprised what they do with that money. They have religious organizations, they have grandchildren, they have friends, they have relatives who they'd like to assist and give money to. They want to donate it to charitable organizations. They want to help other people. I've talked to people who want to use it for a mission and they want to go to a foreign country. It takes money to do those things. Lifespan's compensation program is called a perpetual earning plan. And this perpetual earning plan will give you the opportunity to perpetually, to regularly, every month, month in and month out, receive a check. And we will continue to increase the commissions that are paid. And the company is paying one of the highest that's out there, and we're going to continue to increase that amount. We have unipools. Those were designed by Randy. Absolutely amazing. It rewards the people who are doing the work. And as long as you're associating, you're telling people about it, that's the work we're talking about. Just share it. Talk to other people, give them the same opportunity somebody gave you. We had a conference call not very long ago, and we had an individual on there that was almost in tears that says, I am so thankful Randy called me. I'm so thankful that Jim or Maureen or Mimi called me. And we like to tell people kind of a little phrase, make the call. Don't be afraid, make the call. Let somebody know exactly what you know. Help them understand why everyone needs this product.